I don't know how it is everywhere in the world, but I do know that especially when it comes to employment, drug tests are a pretty big deal here in the United States. I won't really get into the debate of whether or not they should be a big deal here, because I understand the argument behind why they can be useful for insurance companies, and also for employers to know what substances people are on. I think there are some flaws in that system, but none of that really has to do with the main point of what I'm talking about here, which is that the actual tests themselves are very biased towards some drugs and not towards others. And that isn't just because of some bias by the people administering it, but a lot of it has to do with the way that the drugs are biologically constructed and how long they stay detectable in the body. So to compare these different drugs and how long they last in your system on both blood and urine tests, I've compiled a little list of how long they each last and put it right there so you can take a look. And essentially what this list is telling us is that most of these drugs can be removed from the system in a matter of days. Somewhere between 1 to 5 days seems to be the most typical amount for these drugs, except for 2 of them. The 2 that last longer for the most common urine test are cannabis and benzodiazepines. And a lot of times the people using benzos will be people who actually have prescriptions for them, like myself at one point, and they were using them for anxiety. And if you have a prescription for those pills and are using them from a doctor, then you will not be punished by your employer as a result. However, that is not always true for cannabis. I know for a fact that even if you have a medical marijuana card and it shows up positive, you can still get in trouble, get denied from a job, or fired if that is found in your blood by a large portion of companies. I think there are some exceptions, but I know for a fact that the company that I did an internship with last year, that was their policy. And what this means is that compared to other drugs, users of marijuana, especially those who use medical marijuana, are really the ones who end up in a very bad position, because if you're using it daily for a medical purpose, it could very well stay in your system for 4 weeks on a urine test. So if you're told 1 week ahead of time, like I was for my employment drug test, they told me you have 1 week to get this done from your interview, and you can do it at the last possible minute, but you have to do it within a week. And so if I was using any of these other drugs, that would be fine. I could just stop using them and I would show up clean. But if I was a casual or medical user of marijuana and that was in my system, I would be completely and utterly screwed, because I would not be able to get clean. If I was using it daily, let's say for really severe purposes like for pain, for sleep, for anxiety, something that requires very heavy uses, I would need to use this daily, and if I had a high concentration built up in my system, it would be too late. And so what would really happen is that unless I'm an extreme addict to one of these other substances and I can't go 5 days without it in one binge to pass a test that I have time ahead for, it leads to a lot of circumstances where specifically the people who get screwed over are either the casual marijuana users or those using medical marijuana by these tests. And I don't think that's a good thing. And so what I think needs to happen more is there needs to be an increase in the amount of exceptions given to medical marijuana patients, along the same way that, if you have a prescription for benzodiazepines, I think it should be treated the same way for medical marijuana at all employments. I know that'll never pass, but that would be, in my opinion, it would make things much better, because it makes it really tricky to actually use medical marijuana as a substitute if you're going to be taking drug tests. And I used to use medical marijuana, but I no longer do actually this year, because of my experience at the internship. I realized that if I ever had an accident at work and I tested positive, I could be in some incredibly deep shit. And also I knew that when I went to go do my employment drug test, if I was using it for the medical purposes that I previously was, which was sleep and anxiety, and I was using it daily for those, which I was about 6 months ago, I would just be completely and utterly screwed. So with this current system, it places a lot of limitations on what people can do in regards to their medical marijuana usage, because of the fact that that specific drug lasts so long in relation to the other drugs. And it's really hard to change the biological structure of drugs. Simply put, these other drugs just go out through your system too quickly, and marijuana sticks around for a long time just by nature of how it's constructed. But this leads to a very difficult situation for medical marijuana patients, because they're the ones who are going to get caught on the drug tests disproportionately, especially disproportionate in the amount of abuse. Because if someone's abusing one of those hard drugs, obviously they're going to get caught. But if they're only a casual user, like let's say they're a very casual user of medical marijuana, or either recreational marijuana, a casual user, or a medical marijuana user, they're going to get dinged, which is not good in my opinion. I don't think marijuana should be the thing that we're looking for on drug tests above all those other much more serious things. To me, the point of the drug test would be to stop someone at your work from being a meth addict, to make sure people aren't shooting up at the employment office, or if someone is a recovering addict, if you give them drug tests to make sure that they didn't use yesterday or something while they're trying to get a recovery. I don't think the purpose should be to punish random people for smoking weed on a weekend off of work time, or to stop someone who's using medical marijuana so they don't have to take Ambien for sleep, or take benzodiazepines for their anxiety, or take opiates for their pain meds, because now I can tell you I'm on Ambien for my sleep, and I'm on Xanax for my anxiety, and I wouldn't be on those if medical marijuana wasn't treated the way it was on these drug tests. And those are much harder drugs. Being on the Ambien can be really hard on you, and then benzos, you can actually get death from the withdrawals, and they're much harder on the brain and the body even than weed would be. So I think that is a big flaw in the drug test system, and it does bother me, and I think it needs to be fixed. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please consider liking the video, leaving a comment, or subscribing for more. I'll see you guys next time.